Hello there, everyone. Today I'm going to be going over a partner EDH deck, red-black colors, and it is Jeska and Falthis. They're both from Commander Legends, and I feel like they have a very, very good synergy together that's a little bit underplayed, actually. So I'll go over the first part of it. It is Falthis. He is 3 mana for a 2/2 legendary creature cat, and he simply just says commanders you control have menace and death touch, and obviously has partner. And then the second half is going to be Jeska, and she's 3 mana for a planeswalker, starting loyalty 0, but she enters the battlefield with a loyalty counter on it for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone. Her 0 is choose target creature until your next turn. If that creature would deal combat damage to one of your opponents, it deals triple that much damage to that player instead. And then she has a minus X, where she deals X damage to up to each of 3 targets. The 0 is cool because you can target your opponent's creatures with it. So then in a multiplayer game, if your opponent attacks one of your other opponents, it's going to deal triple, but if they attack you, it only deals regular damage. So it incentivizes your opponents to attack each other. And then the minus X is really good with Falthis, because Falthis will give Jeska Death Touch, and then if you use the minus X for just -1, X is 1, it will deal 1 damage to up to 3 targets, and if all 3 of those are creatures, because she has Death Touch, it will kill all 3 creatures. And then you can use that multiple times in a game, so you can just wipe the board a lot. Just every time you use the minus X, it just kills 3 creatures, as long as she has Death Touch. So it's a very good interaction, very good abilities. Our first card here is we have Obosh, the Prey Piercer. I was thinking about making it the companion, but it just gets rid of too many cards in your deck. Obosh reads, if a source you control with an odd converted mana cost would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. So the main theme of this deck is going to be a lot of damage doublers and a lot of cards that deal damage, and a lot of cards that destroy lands, destroy creatures, so just slowing down the game, and then just winning with some big creature that can deal like ×6 damage. Basically, if you have an Obosh and a Jeska out, and you use Jeska 0 on one of your creatures, and if that creature has an odd converted mana cost, it's dealing ×6 its damage. So even just something, that has 4 power, you're going to be dealing 24 damage. Next up, we have Cavalry the Merciless. He is 7 mana for a 5/4, and whenever an opponent casts a spell, they get dealt damage equal to that spell's mana cost to any target. So this is really good with Obosh, because then that damage will be doubled, and just very good for just dealing a lot of damage to your opponents. Next up, we have Toroff, God of Fury. He's 4 mana for a 5/4 trample, and he reads, whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess non-combat damage, Toroff deals damage equal to the excess to any target other than that permanent. Obviously, we have Blasphemous Act in the deck, and then we also have some other stuff that can deal damage, and if you have something that doubles the damage out, Blasphemous Act's pretty much just going to win the game on the spot if you have Toroff out. We also have Torbrand, Thane of Redfell. He's 4 mana for a 2/4, and he reads, if a red source you control would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. So obviously we have a lot of red-based damage, and Torbrand will just add 2 to all that. Next up, we have Harsh Mentor, who's 2 mana for a 2/2, and he reads, whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or lands on the battlefield, if it isn't a mana ability, they get dealt 2 damage. We also have Immolation Shaman, who's very similar. He reads, whenever an opponent activates an ability of an artifact, creature, or land that isn't a mana ability, They get dealt 1 damage, and then he also has this minor ability of 5 mana, and he gets +3/+3 and gains Menace until end of turn. That doesn't come up too often, but just dealing some more damage to your opponent when they activate abilities. We also have Dockside Extortionist. He doesn't really need an introduction. He's a very expensive card. 2 mana for a 1/2. When he enters the battlefield, create X treasure tokens, where X is the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. So just good for ramping up into some of the more expensive spells that we're running in the deck. We also have Croxah, Titans of Death Hunger. He's 2 mana for a 6/6, but when he enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless it was escaped. And he reads, when he enters the battlefield or attacks, each opponent discards a card. Then each opponent who didn't discard a non-land card this way loses 3 life. Just a good way to grind out the game. You can keep on recurring him from your graveyard, making your opponents discard, losing life. Just fits the general theme of the deck. We also have Goblin Dark Dwellers, 5 mana for a 4/4 Menace. And when he enters the battlefield, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. And then if that card would be put into the graveyard, you exile it instead. I think this is a pretty underrated card. He can flash back a lot of different spells, a lot of different removal spells, utility spells. And he's just a 4/4 body with Menace too. We also have a Nighthawk Scavenger. It's 3 mana for a 1+ star and then toughness of 3. He's flying, Death Touch, Lifelink, and his power is equal to 1 plus the number of card types among cards in your opponent's graveyards. So he's just a good way to get through for some damage with the flying. And then also Lifelink's really important in this deck because you do a lot of damage to yourself with the various enchantments and spells. Next up, we have a Kohligon the Storm's Fury. He's 5 mana for a 4/5 flying. He has whenever a dragon you control attacks, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. There's like a very slight dragon theme in the deck. Not too big, but just, good for closing out the game and really good with double damage spells or triple damage spells. And then he also has an ability called Dash, where you can pay 5 mana and you can cast it for Dash. If you do, it gains haste, and then it's returned to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. That's also a useful ability for when you want to wipe the board as well. You can dash them out, get some damage in, destroy all creatures, and then you still have them in your hands, and you can cast them again next turn. Next up, we have Glorybringer. There's 5 mana for a 4/4 flying haste. And as it attacks, you can exert it, and if you do, it deals 4 damage to target non-dragon creature an opponent controls. So this is a good because he can win the game by himself with some, triple damage spells or double damage, and then also he can take out creatures too. For some Planeswalkers, we have Sarkhan the Masterless. He's 5 mana, starting loyalty 5. And his static ability is whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, each dragon you control deals 1 damage to that creature. Also, this is good with double damage spells or triple damage spells because then that 1 damage can turn into 2 or it can turn into 4. So then, maybe your opponent's creatures can't attack you at all. His +1 reads until end of turn, each planeswalker you control becomes a 4/4 red dragon and gains flying. And then his -3 is create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. And then obviously we have a planeswalker in the command zone, so that +1 is good, turning Jeska into a 4/4 and Sarkhan himself. We also have a Chandra, Torch of Defiance. She is 4 mana, starting loyalty 4. +1 is exile the top card of your library. You may cast that card. If you don't, Chandra deals 2 damage to each opponent. And +1 is add 2 red mana. Her -3 is she deals 4 damage to target creature, and her emblem is you get whenever you cast a spell, this emblem deals 5 damage to any target. Obviously, all 4 of her abilities are pretty useful in this deck. Next up, we have some enchantments, and this is where the hate will start coming in. So we have Sulfuric Vortex, 3 mana enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, they get dealt 2 damage, and if a player would gain life, that player gains no life instead. We also have its little brother, Roiling Vortex. It's 2 mana for an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, Roiling Vortex deals 1 damage to them. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, Roiling Vortex deals 5 damage to that player. And then you can pay a red, and your opponents can't gain life this turn. The clause where the no mana spent is you have to make sure when that comes up, because it doesn't come up too often, but you can think about like decks that cascade or decks that cast cards from their library or hand for free. This spell can really add up for some different 5 damage. If you have something that doubles damage, you're looking at 10 damage, so it can really add up, and even just at 1 damage a turn. Next up, we have Mana Barbs, which is 4 mana enchantment. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, Mana Barbs deals 1 damage to that player. We also have Spell Shock, 3 mana enchantment. Whenever any player successfully casts a spell, Spell Shock deals 2 damage to that player. Next up, we have Furnace of Wrath, which is 4 mana enchantment, double all damage assigned to any creature or player. So this is going to be obviously one of our key spells in the deck, just doubling any damage output. You have to be careful because it also does double the damage dealt to you and your creatures as well. Next up here we have a cycle of Vows. These are kind of cool. I like these in the deck. They're 3 mana enchantments, enchant creature auras, and they all read basically similar. They give a creature +2/+2. They give it an ability, and then they can't attack you or a planeswalker you control. These are good if you have Jeska out as well, because you can 0 Jeska on one of your opponent's creatures that has a Vow on it, so it does triple damage, and then that creature cannot attack you. It can only attack your other opponents. So it's good at making your opponents basically kill each other, and then you can just scoop up in the end. We also have Crux of Fate, which is 5 mana. Choose one, destroy all dragon creatures or destroy all non-dragons. Like I said, there was a slight little dragon theme, so this mode, destroy all non-dragons, is really good. Sometimes it can keep some of your own creatures alive, but destroy all of your opponents. We also have Blasphemous Act. Blasphemous Act deals 13 damage to each creature, and then it also costs 1 less for each creature on the battlefield. So basically, you can play this a lot of times for just 1 red mana, and it can sweep the whole board. And also, if you have Toroff out, you'll probably win. We also have Deadly Tempest, which reads 6 mana, sorcery, destroy all creatures. Each player loses life equal to the number of creatures he or she controlled that were destroyed this way. So just another cool board wipe that also just makes your opponents lose a lot of life if they have a lot of creatures. We also have Obliterate, which is 8 mana. Obliterate can't be countered, and it reads destroy all artifacts, creatures, and lands. They can't be regenerated. Obviously, this is a card that not a lot of people like to play against in a game of Commander, but it's one of my favorite cards, and there's even some stuff in here that's indestructible. So you can also be left over with some lands or some artifacts after this resolves. We also have Mizzium Mortars, which is just 2 mana, deals 4 damage to target creature you don't control, and then it also has Overload for 6 mana, then it would deal 4 damage to every creature you don't control. So it's useful in the early game for just picking off something that could be problematic, and it's also good late game where you can deal 4 damage to everybody's creatures. We also have Necromantic Selection. This is 7 mana, sorcery, destroy all creatures, then return a creature card put into a graveyard this way to the battlefield under your control, and it becomes a black zombie, and then you have to exile Necromantic Selection. So this is cool because you can destroy all of your opponent's creatures and then get back the best thing that was destroyed. Everybody loves killing their opponents with their own creatures. We also have Fiery Confluence, just 4 mana, sorcery. You choose 3, and you can choose the same mode more than once. Mode 1 is deals 1 damage to each creature. Mode 2 is 2 damage to each opponent, and Mode 3 is destroy target artifact. So just a very versatile spell there. You can choose a bunch of different modes, and if you have some damage doublers out, it can deal a lot of damage to different opponents or to all their creatures. We also have Chaos Warp, 3 mana instant. The owner of target permanent shuffles it into their library, then reveals the top card of their library. If it's a permanent card, they can put it onto the battlefield. This is good for getting rid of some problematic enchantments, just because red-black doesn't have a lot of ways to get rid of those. And also any other permanents, planeswalkers, artifacts, anything that can be troublesome. We also have a Secret Lair Dreadbore here, just a sorcery, 2 mana, simple, just says destroy target creature or planeswalker. I love the art, and Dreadbore is a really cool card. We also have Terminate, which is 2 mana, a red and a black, and destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. Instant. Next up, we have Murderous Cut, which is 5 mana, but it has the ability Delve, where you can exile a card from your graveyard, and it reduces it by 1 for each card. And this just reads destroy target creature. We also have Hagra Mauling, which is 4 mana. This spell costs 1 less to cast if any opponent controls no basic lands, and it just reads destroy target creature. But it's also really nice because on the flip part of it, it is just a land that enters the battlefield tapped and can add a black mana. So it's an MDFC. That's just a land, or it can be either a 3 or 4 mana removal spell. Next up, we have Feed the Swarm, just 2 mana for a sorcery that reads destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls, and then you lose life equal to that permanent's mana cost. Now we're starting some land destruction spells. We have Cleansing Wildfire, which is 2 mana, sorcery, destroy target land. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then they shuffle, and then you get to draw a card. This is just good for getting rid of any utility land that's causing you issues, and then they just replace it with a basic, and then you get to draw a card, so it also doesn't cost you anything. Next up, we have another one of my favorites, which is Boom Bust. Boom is 2 mana, destroy target land you control and target land you don't control, and then Bust is 6 mana, and it just destroys all lands. We also have Ankh of Mishra, which is 2 mana for an artifact. Each time a player puts a land into play, Ankh of Mishra deals 2 damage to that player. We also have, of course, Zozu, the Punisher. He's 3 mana for a 2/2, and he is whenever a land enters the battlefield, Zozu deals 2 damage to that land's controller. And finally, we also have Nightshade Harvester, which is a newer version of these effects. 4 mana for a 2/2, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, that player loses 1 life, and then Nightshade Harvester gets a 1/1 counter. We also have Blood Moon, which is 3 mana enchantment. Non-basic lands are mountains. And we have the creature version of it, which is Magus of the Moon. 3 mana for a 2/2. Non-basic lands are mountains. We also have Wildfire, which is 6 mana for a sorcery. Each player sacrifices 4 lands, and Wildfire deals 4 damage to each creature. This is a good way to get rid of a lot of lands and wipe your opponent's board of creatures too. Next up, we have Desolation, which is 3 mana for an enchantment. At the end of each turn, each player who tapped a land for mana during that turn sacrifices a land. And then it also says if a plains is sacrificed this way, Desolation deals 2 damage to that plains controller. So if your opponent taps lands on a other opponent's turn, they have to sacrifice a land. If they tap lands on their turn, they have to sacrifice a land. So it kind of punishes control decks or decks that like to play at instant speed, because each turn you tap a land for mana, you have to sacrifice a land at the end of that turn. Next up, we have Burning Sands, which is 5 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from play, that creature's controller sacrifices a land. I'll have to give a shout out to my friend Dan for showing me this card. This is really good in this deck because basically every opponent's creature that dies also causes them to sacrifice a land. So if you play a spell that destroys all creatures, depending on how many creatures your opponents have, they have to sacrifice that many lands. Next up, we have Skyclave Relic, which is 3 mana for an artifact with kicker of 3, and it has Indestructible. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, you create 2 tapped tokens that are copies of it, and then it just has tap, add 1 mana of any color. This is good mostly because of the indestructible part. So if you do play something like Obliterate, it will not destroy this, so you'll still have something left on the battlefield. Next up we have Hedron Archive, which is 4 mana for an artifact. It reads tap, add 2 colorless to your mana pool, and then you can also pay 2 colorless and tap it and sacrifice it to draw 2 cards. We obviously have Rakdos Signet, 2 mana for an artifact. Tap 1, tap it, add a red-black to your mana pool. We have both of the diamonds, Charcoal and Fire. One adds black, one adds red. They enter the battlefield tapped. Obviously, we have a Soul Ring. And another obvious inclusion is Arcane Signet. We got a couple cards that draw some cards too here. We have Read the Bones, which is 3 mana for a sorcery. You scry 2, then draw 2 cards, and you lose 2 life. We also have a Faithless Looting, which is 1 mana, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. And it also has Flashback, cost of 3. Here we have Jeska's Will, which is good flavor because our commander is Jeska as well. So we have 3 mana for a sorcery. Choose 1. If you control a commander as you cast this spell, you may choose both. You get to add a red mana for each card in target opponent's hand. And you can also exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Next up we have Mizzix's Mastery, which is 4 mana for a sorcery. Exile target card that's an instant or sorcery from your graveyard. For each card exiled this way, copy it, and you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost, and then you have to exile Mizzix's Mastery. But it also has Overload of 5, 6, 7, 8 there, and when you cast it, you get to change its text by target with each. So then if you overload it, each instant and sorcery in your graveyard gets copied, and then you can cast it, which can very much lead to a blowout. This card will also be good with the next set that's coming out, Strixhaven, because it has a lot of cards that deal with like casting instants or sorceries or copying instants and sorceries. We also have Reiterate, just 3 mana instant. It has a buyback of 3. Buyback is if you pay 3 extra mana, when you cast the spell, as it resolves, it goes back to your hand. And then you get to copy target instant or sorcery spell, and then you can choose new targets. This is really good for copying your opponent's spells or your own. We also have Rakdos Charm, which is 2 mana. You get to choose 1 ability. You exile all cards from target player's graveyard, destroy target artifact, or each creature deals 1 damage to its controller. We have Vandal Blast, which is 1 mana, destroy target artifact you don't control. And then it also has Overload of 5, which would destroy each artifact you don't control. And we also have a Revel in Riches, which is 5 mana for an enchantment. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you get to create a treasure token. The treasure token has tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. This is a very good win condition for the deck because there's so many ways to destroy all creatures or destroy multiple amounts of creatures with Jeska and Falthis, or just different board wipes, different damage-based board wipes. It's also really good with Dockside Extortionist, who also makes treasure tokens. And then if you have 10 or more in your upkeep there, you just win the game. And then we'll get to the lands. We have Darksteel Citadel, which is just good because of the indestructible part of it. Just taps to add a colorless. But if you do play a spell that destroys all lands and this is out, you get to save this guy. And we have Cascading Cataracts for the same reason, just for the indestructible aspect of it. And then it just taps, add a colorless to your mana pool. We have Ghost Quarter, which can tap to destroy target lands, and then its controller can search their library for a basic land and put it onto the battlefield. We also have Field of Ruin, which is pay 2 mana, tap it, sacrifice it, destroy target non-basic land an opponent controls, and then each player searches his or her library for a basic land card, puts it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. We also have Command Beacon, just tap, add colorless, but then you can also tap it, sacrifice it, put your commander into your hand from the command zone. This card is good in the deck for if your commanders start becoming too pricey. They both start at 3, but then obviously the second time you cast them, they're 5. The third time you cast them, it's 7. And obviously with Jeska, you want to keep on casting her over and over again because she enters with more loyalty counters. And then also every time you use that minus, you can just destroy 3 different creatures. So it's very good for reducing the cost one time. Then we have a lot of red-black dual lands. We have Canyon Slough. We have Luxury Suite. We have Blood Crypt. We have the Blightstep Pathway. We have the Smoldering Marsh. Dragon Skull Summit. We have these 2 cards, which aren't particularly good, but they're kind of needed just for that you gain 1 life trigger. They enter the battlefield tapped. When they do, you gain 1 life, and then they just tap to add a red or a black. Just little pieces of life gain will help in this deck with all the incidental damage. We also have Foreboding Ruins, a Blackcleave Cliffs. We have just a couple of fetch lands. We have Marsh Flats and Bloodstained Mire. Obviously, we have a Command Tower and another auto-include, which is Urborg. We have a Bajuka Bog, just for getting rid of someone's graveyard, especially with all the board wipes we're running. If your opponent has a lot of recursion or if they have combos that are out of the graveyard, this land will do you really well. That's also why Rakdos Charm is good. We have about 9 or 10 mountains in the deck, and then also just about 9 or 10 swamps in the deck too. And that's it for the 98s there. Let me know in the comments what you think about this partner pairing, because I really do like it, and I like how it's just such good creature control when you cast these cards. You cast this on turn 3, this on turn 4, you get to pick off 3 creatures, and then if Jeska survives, you get to pick off 3 more the next turn, and then you can just cast her again, pick off another 3. Just very good for bouncing back and forth. Alright, well, I'll be back with another deck tech video in just a little bit when Strixhaven comes out. And then if you like the video, make sure you subscribe. Tell me if you like me using the real cards here. I like that a lot better than just showing digital pictures. Alright, have a good day, everybody. I'll see you later.